Welcome to the Bitcoin in Africa show. From Dakar to Dar es Salaam, from Cairo to Cape Town, we are the voice of Bitcoin in Africa.
Welcome to a very special episode of the Bitcoin in Africa show. Of course, I'm your host, Charlene Fadirepo. We are live here in Nairobi, Kenya. This is the very first Africa Bitcoin Mining Summit, and we are at the beautiful Windsor Golf Resort. And I'm here speaking to all the people that are mining, doing research, supplying mining companies, anyone that is doing anything in Africa with regards to Bitcoin mining. So let's talk to our first guest. I'm here with Omar Berry from Coin. Welcome to the show, Omar.
Thank you, Charlene. Thanks for having me.
So Omar, you are probably one of the only people mining Bitcoin in Guinea. Can you tell us about, why Guinea and how you got started in Bitcoin mining?
Sure, absolutely. Guinea, number one, because it's where I'm from. I started my mining operations in Quebec and Montreal.
Nice.
And I've always dreamed of bringing some more hash rate to the continent.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could also benefit from this technology by building sustainable mini grids to help empower Africans through energy.
Yep. And so tell me what's so exciting for you about the Africa Bitcoin Mining Summit. Of course, this is the first time we've had it.
Yeah.
Why was it so important for you to be here today?
Well, it's really important because it's for miners, by miners. I'm meeting a lot of interesting folks that are doing exactly what I'm trying to do. People that are building hydro dams, OG Bitcoiners too that have been mining for forever, big companies as well. So everyone's literally here. I think it's probably the best event to attend if you're trying to do some mining in Africa.
Yeah, for the folks that might be new to mining, so at this Africa Bitcoin Mining Summit, we have about 40 people from about 9 different countries. And these aren't people just thinking about mining in Africa. They're folks that are on the ground that are actually running mining rigs, sometimes in the city, sometimes in rural West Africa, sometimes in rural East Africa. But most importantly, using Bitcoin mining as a way to solve for energy poverty. And here's the thing, this is why we're all here. We think Bitcoin mining is a solution for one of the more difficult problems that we have in Africa, which is making sure that everyone has reliable access to energy and electricity. So tell me what's been the most impactful thing that you've learned so far?
I think the fact that you could possibly integrate the energy source into your business model, and provide electricity to the neighborhood. So it could highly contribute to rural electrification.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, thank you so much for talking to us, Omar. Best of luck with your new mine in Guinea, and we look forward to circling back with you later.
Thanks, Charlene.
Thank you. Thank you guys for joining us. We're here with the Bitcoin in Africa show. I'm here with Janet Maingi, who is the co-founder of Gridless Compute. Welcome to the show, Janet.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Now, for folks that might not be familiar with Bitcoin mining in Africa, Janet, can you tell us what Gridless Compute does and where you're doing it, and kind of give us the story of how the company got started?
Sure. So Gridless Compute is a company that deals with Bitcoin mining, but we focus on partnering with renewable energy mini grids in rural Africa. And the approach is either we come in as anchor tenants, whereby they have stranded power that they have no one to sell it to, or we come in as a buyer of last resort. And based on whichever angle we take, we're able to economize that project. So the energy that is stranded and has no one utilizing it, then we use it to mine Bitcoin, and in return then the energy partner is able to get revenue out of the relationship with us.
Got it. Now what Janet has not mentioned is that Gridless Compute is the pioneer of Bitcoin in Africa, and they were actually the key sponsor and lead organizer of the Africa Bitcoin Mining Summit. So, and actually let's pivot and talk about that. So I know that a lot of the mastermind behind the coordination, logistics of the summit was you. Yeah. Tell me, how tough was it to organize this summit? I remember Eric said people from, there are roughly 40 or 50 folks, 9 countries, maybe more.
15.
Excuse me, 15 countries all around the world. And, sometimes it can be hard to find miners, right? Sometimes African miners can be stealthy. Give us a sense, what was that like, planning, logistics? How did that happen?
Of course, one of the things that was instrumental is if you were there for the Bitcoin summit, the African Bitcoin summit in Ghana, we announced the Gamma Association, which is the Green Africa Mining Alliance. And out of that, we already got memberships of other miners within Africa, so similar people with similar mindsets who are trying to mine in Africa and utilize the stranded renewable energy. So that made it easy because we already had that kind of relationship in place. But again, being in the space for just about a year now, different networks. So of course, Eric, the other co-founder, he's very well networked, very as he mentioned earlier, that is his role, to go talking to people. And so again, through the different summits we've attended, whether it's a Miami one, Eric was recently in the one at Nashville. So again, attending those sessions and also being, I guess, vocal on the social spaces, we've been able to link up with other people with similar mindsets, and people have also reached out to us and said, hey, how do I do this? How can I be part of this? So that made it much easier to be able now to reach out to different guys. But we were very intentional on the invites. So this was really an invite only. I'm sure the crowd would have been bigger.
Sure.
But our idea was, being the first summit, we first need to get a smaller group that we feel would be aggressive in pushing for the mining in Africa. And then hopefully the second summit or the third summit or the fourth summit, then the numbers can keep growing.
Got it.
So we had to start somewhere.
So tell us who's here. So as you were putting together that guest list, who were you looking for? What was the best? Tell us about the types of guests you were trying to bring together for this summit.
So I think we definitely have miners, so people who are mining in different parts of Africa, because one of the things we believe, we're not the only ones who can make the change, right? The pie is so big. We're only taking a slice.
I love that.
And we should be able to work with other people, see how we can reap different synergies and be able to work towards the same goal. So the mining companies or individuals in Africa, some who are actively mining, some who are starting up and possibly need some guidance down this path. Of course, they're the people we reached out to. Then, of course, we have miners who come out of the US. So, again, people who have been down this path, beaten. So there's experience to learn from them. Because one of the things we believe in the summit, there's a lot of learning.
Sure.
So everybody's bringing something to the table. So the people who've done it longer, they've possibly gone through the different dips and peaks of mining. And so what do we learn from them? And then there are people who are starting out, as I said, how do we guide them to not to fall into the same landmines that we fell into. And so again, so if you think about it, we have now bigger miners who come out of Texas, the likes of BT's, Marathon, Rhodium.
That's right.
So there's well representation. And then also we have some energy partners in Kenya, so some of the ones we are working with, Kenya, the Zambians, but also we have a few government institutions, so reps from the government.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, you still need buy-in from the government. You need support from the government to be able to keep growing. So we kind of looked at the people minds that would come together, yes, very different sectors, but people who would have very similar ways of thinking when it comes to mining. And then how can we move to the next step beyond the mining part of it, but the other challenges that come around it. So whether it's the logistics, the regulatory, how do we all work together to make it as seamless as possible?
I agree, and what I love about the guest list is that if you are mining or you're beginning to mining, you're going to need the government. You're going to need to kind of follow the path of your public companies, because you can learn from them, and then you just need to kind of exchange notes with people that are already doing it, even if it's in a different African countries, because you can learn a lot. Now
and maybe to add to what we announced much earlier today, we've released the blueprints of the locally fabricated containers that now we are doing out of Nairobi. Because the cost of bringing them in was really, really exorbitant. The process was quite painful. So if you've been in Africa, shipping within Africa can be special. But now being able to manufacture locally, we also believe that now being able to share these blueprints, other miners within the space can be able to do this locally, so bring down their cost of their capex when it comes to the infrastructure to something more realistic, and be able to set up something that works for us. Because again, some of we did import some containers, and one thing you're conscious about is they don't understand Africa.
That's right.
We have a lot of dust.
Yeah.
We saw one in one of our sites where we had to go back and put in like bug filters because we had during the rainy season you get these termite flies that come from the ground.
Oh my gosh.
And they got into the fans and just got marked up there.
Oh my gosh.
And those are things you'd not think about because when you got the container, it was just set for maybe a Europe kind of a setting. So now we're sitting back and going like, what is Africa? What is unique to us? And what does the container need to do around these uniquenesses and complications that come of being out of Africa? So again, that's the exciting part, that what we're putting on the table is a pill, is a pill that can be used for Africa, and not a pill that is just generally subscribed to anybody because it ticks certain boxes.
And tell us the name of it was Kiguru? Is that the name of the box? The mining
Kifaru.
Kifaru.
Yeah, Kifaru stands for rhino.
Oh, excellent.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so we went with Kifaru, which is the Swahili version of rhino. And every time it says the rhino has charged, Kifaru has charged.
I love it. You know, and what I think is so significant about that is that you guys, you have pioneered the first mining shipping container in Africa. You could have hoarded that to yourself and sold it, right? And there would have been a market. But you decided, no, this is about the ecosystem. We want to build. We want Africa as a continent to benefit. You're outsourcing and open sourcing those plans. I think that's really significant, and it should be commended. Not every company has that kind of level of leadership and actually foresight, right? Because this is we're not here for the short term. We believe that mining is good for Africa, not just Kenya, but all of Africa.
Yeah, and I think the larger picture at the end of the day is we believe Bitcoin mining will really catalyze electrification in Africa.
Yes.
If you look at the stats, I think it's about 2/3 of Africa is not powered on. And so when we go to these mini grids that have stranded power or are looking for a fast kind of a tenant to be able to attract capital, attract investors, then from that angle, then you know that as the more we partner, the more we light up certain renewable energy mini grids, the more homes, the more communities, the more smaller industries get powered on, which then just gets that environment more economically viable. And as that keeps happening, then we believe more homes will be connected, and more homes in Africa will have energy.
Yeah, and
electricity.
I just think from a productivity standpoint, so a lot of our viewers are American, and so this idea of like not having access to energy may be foreign, but for guys, it's literally, maybe you only have 8 to 10 hours of energy a day. That means your phone might be cut off. That means you might not be able to make your dinner. Like the energy cuts are disruptive. And so I think about from a productivity standpoint, imagine all the things that Africa has been able to accomplish with that challenge. Imagine what can be done if we fix it.
And you look at it from the angle of energy cuts. We look at it that there are people who don't have electricity in their homes. So they don't even have a single bulb. So if you sit back and analyze those homes, they're just simple things that you get to see. There are issues around refrigeration.
Yeah,
but
for
that's for them is a luxury. It's basic things like, can my child be able to do some homework? The assignments, they're using paraffin lamps, fumes that affects their health.
Which are dangerous.
Which are dangerous. And I remember talking to one of the consumers in one of our sites, and he told me, my daughter's performance was so bad because sometimes she comes home, we do not have paraffin to light those lamps. And the nearest gas station is like 2 kilometers.
My goodness.
So that day we tell her, sorry, you can't do your assignments.
Which
means again, there's an effect of her in terms of school. But just by being able to light that one bulb, not only is her health in a better space, but she's able to keep up with the rest of the students and compete. So it's those basic things that we don't think about because we've either been brought up in Nairobi where you've grown up with electricity, or you are out there, whether in the US or Europe, and you do not understand that electricity is an issue. For I believe that electricity is actually a basic need in Africa. It needs to be in homes.
I agree. Tell us, I want to switch gears a little bit. Tell us about you, Janet. I mean, there are not many women in the space, and I have to just kind of acknowledge that it's so exciting to meet you as a co-founder of Gridless. You guys, again, are pioneers. How did you get connected to Gridless? Tell me how you got connected to Eric and then Philip and all of that.
So in our previous lives, so we have previous lives before Gridless. I worked with Eric and Philip before.
Excellent.
And so we were working for a company that was working towards solving connectivity in Africa.
I see.
So still looking at the challenges that Africa has and try to see how best we can address them. So some of the hardware that we built was really, again, made for Africa. So we have very interesting power surges. Also, our power is not very stable. And so we were coming up with routers that were very rugged, can sustain power surges, can sustain dust, because all these things are present in Africa. So that's where we met. We worked together for about, I feel like 8 years.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time.
That's a long time.
Okay.
And then I kind of took a walk and moved on with my career.
Yeah.
And so somewhere last year, so we still kept in touch because even the separation was very mutual.
Sure.
It was more of a career growth for me, but we still kept really in touch, sharing ideas, meeting for coffees. And so somewhere last year, then Philip reached out again. He's like, hey, can we have coffee?
Yeah.
And he's like, so we have this idea. I'm like, So we want to go into Bitcoin mining. I'm like,
Now, were you familiar with Bitcoin mining at that
I
point?
knew of Bitcoin,
Interesting.
not mining. I knew of
Okay.
Bitcoin.
Got it.
But I think just like everybody else, sounds complicated. It
Yeah.
happens there, not around here, and I'm okay
Sure.
with it.
Yeah.
So you know of it, but you're not involved in it.
Got it.
And so sat down. So they were like, yeah, this is what we're thinking of doing. We want to work with you. So can we all come together, be co-founders, and work towards this?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure what I'm getting myself into. But because I've worked with you guys, of course, there's that trust. We've become
Sure.
friends.
Yeah.
I was like, leap of faith, let's do this. And I guess that has been much of my career, a lot of leap of faith. So pioneering a lot of technologies that were new in Kenya. And so based on that, then they were like, okay, so we're going to like really orange pill you.
That's awesome.
And so there was a lot of links, podcasts,
Things
documents,
to read, for
things to
sure.
read.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like was it like I didn't expect that heavy of knowledge coming
Yeah.
your way. And then as you start reading, you just find yourself going, sunk in. Yeah, then I covered myself nicely in the box, repackaged it, put a ribbon and said, let's do this.
How long did it take? Was it 3 months, 5 months, 6 months?
I think we started having conversations like in February.
Yeah.
But of course, there were certain things that foundations also trying to lay just to make sure there's clarity on what we want to do. And so when everything made sense, I think it was about June. And then June I jumped ship and I was like, bye-bye
For
employer.
you. Okay, so
Back to
you
this
were
other
actually
thing.
employed at another job. So
Yeah.
you left that job,
Yeah.
took a leap of faith, and decided to join your old coworkers.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
and here we are. So
and so
enjoying
now-
every bit of the journey.
And now that you're a Bitcoin, and I will just say, I think Bitcoin miners are super special Bitcoiners because I think to be a miner, you understand, you really understand Bitcoin, and you understand the networking side of Bitcoin, the importance of securitizing the network. So the question is, have you orange pilled your friends? Like, have you orange pilled your parents?
My
Or
parents.
how is that process going?
So I haven't orange pilled my parents, but
That's
I have two siblings who've been orange pilled.
Okay.
So, yeah. And of course, with the people who've joined the company, we went through that process. So that's really a prerequisite. So
Sure.
you will go to site, and I guess when you go tomorrow, you'll understand why induction on site is not funny.
Oh,
And
gosh.
it's quite steep and hilly. But beyond that, we actually now take them through the whole idea. What is Bitcoin? We
Got
have
it.
books for them to read. We have brown bags on Tuesdays where people share ideas.
Yeah.
Because of course, given Bitcoin is still a mystery to many people, and so you can't just expect somebody to walk in. Like
That's
it's not like picking a book and reading about
That's
how a debit and a credit makes sense.
Right.
So that process is still important, and even for us. Let me speak for me. I'm still going through the class.
We're all still learning.
That class doesn't learn.
No, it doesn't end.
Yes.
Like, there's always something to learn.
There's something to learn. There's something new to learn every day, and so just having your mind open to that, being able to learn to lean on others, really makes a difference.
Okay, well, listen, it's just been fabulous to talk to you. I've been waiting to meet you for a very long time. Thank you for your time, and thank you to Gridless Compute for this amazing Africa Bitcoin Mining Summit. You guys, we are live in Nairobi, beautiful Nairobi, Kenya. Wish you were here. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. So we are having Latvian black currant drink. It's called Riga. It was brought to us by Yanis from Power Mining. Again, Eastern European. So we're gonna cheers and enjoy. Oh wow! Awesome. It's really strong. Wow, it's good. No, it's good. It's strong. Yeah. I'm gonna finish it though. We gotta finish it. Let's do it. Yeah. Very good. Hey guys, we're here with Barre Yasin, who is the lead designer of Kifaru. Now you remember, earlier in this episode, we talked to Janet, who's one of the co-founders of Gridless Compute, and Kifaru is their amazing mining container that you see behind us. So Barre, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you very much.
Now tell us about what it took to design this beautiful mining container. And by the way, guys, this is probably the first mining container in the entire continent of Africa. Tell us what it was like to design this.
Yeah, I mean, in short, it's a lot of fun, but we like taking on challenges.
Yeah.
And this was one of the innovations that Gridless, the company, has decided to do. So we did this. This is the second version of the container. We had the first version where we were testing out a lot of the innovation, and now this is the second version. This is basically our commercial version, which we send out to different locations in Africa to basically mine Bitcoin, right?
Got it. Now, what's your background, Barre? Where did you what kind of expertise are you drawing from to be able to design this beauty?
I mean, I'm an engineer by profession, a mechanical engineer by profession.
Sure.
But much more important, I'm a maker. So I like making things.
Got it.
And I like working on intriguing designs. And so that's kind of like my background, and which is something important for this type of project, because we have different systems that you need to work on and different problems that you need to solve, especially being in Africa. We have very rugged terrain. We have very it's very dusty, it's very remote. Some of these miners are going in way deep in the interior of the continent. So yeah.
So tell us, now Gridless could have purchased a miner overseas and shipped it here. Yeah. Why did Gridless choose to build a container that was unique to Africa?
Well, there are two aspects to it. So one is cost, and the other one is basically, I can say, customization. Yeah. Africa requires certain needs which are very different from other places in the world. And so you need to innovate in order to solve for those particular problems. In terms of cost, the average cost of a container can go up to almost $100,000 US.
US, 100,000 US.
Yes, when you are importing it, and of course, with customs and duties, and especially because most of the parts is coming from outside, then that becomes a bit taxing.
Sure.
The other different thing is that in Kenya we have a very unique ecosystem. So we have different manufacturing capabilities that we can leverage on. Even if it's innovation, we can leverage those particular manufacturing capabilities in order to produce these items. It is a bit different from other African countries, even in terms of expertise, and I think that's what is setting us up to be able to do this.
Now, what's the big difference? So this is Kifaru 2, right? Yeah. So you guys had a first version. What's the big difference between the first design and the second design?
Mostly it's in the engineering. And because when you're doing something for the first time, it's very hard to actually predict a lot of the failure points. And basically with our Kifaru 1, we built it basically theoretically, and then we deployed it, but it was more so to get some feedback from the system and then improve on those feedbacks. So there's a lot of thermal management that goes with the containers, because the miners are very sensitive to temperatures and also dust, right? And also a very interesting story about bugs.
So Janet shared with us, what was it? No, is it the flying ants?
Flying ants,
yes, the flying ants, yes.
Yeah. So basically there's purpose in that. There's also some efficiency, basically in manufacturing, in the operation. And so we are continuously developing this system to make it much better and much more suitable.
And so is Kifaru 3 in the works?
Yes, it is.
So don't spill the beans, but anyway, just the industry thanks you for your amazing work. Again, this is the first Bitcoin mining container on the continent of Africa. And of course, these mining containers are important because they're able to protect the miners, and just to make sure that the power supply and the fan and the cooling is appropriate, so that the miners can keep mining that very, very important Bitcoin. Thanks for being with us today, Barre.
Thank you very much for having us.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye. Guys, Okay, we're back. We're at the Africa Bitcoin Mining Summit, and I'm here with Eric Hirschman, of course, who is the co-founder of Gridless Compute, and by the way, the man of the hour, because he actually organized the Africa Bitcoin Mining Summit. Thank you so much for being here with us, Eric.
Yeah, no, great to be here, Charlene, and it's fun just to see everybody around, and having guys from all over the continent here talking mining. It feels weird because a year ago nobody was talking about it.
Yeah.
And now here we are.
So let's get into it. Tell me why it was so important for you to organize this gathering right now.
So, a lot of people know that we're Bitcoin mining in Africa, but they don't realize who else is mining. Mm-hmm. And this isn't even everybody. This is just a good subset of it. And it was important for us to start getting people talking to each other. There's the Green Africa Mining Alliance, which is a group of Bitcoin miners that use renewable energy. And this started out as an event just for us to find each other and sit down. It was going to be 5 people.
Yeah.
And then we said, well, let's invite a couple other people. It became 10, and then it became 15, and then all of a sudden there's people who wanted to come. And so it ended up growing to about 40 or so right now.
And that was started by you as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we with some
others.
other guys.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And so we're here today, and I think, how many countries are represented?
So we have 50 people from 15 different countries here, but 9 African countries are represented for mining.
Got it. And what I love about this gathering is that you didn't just bring miners, right? You brought government officials. There are actually public miners from the U.S. and then small-scale miners across Africa. Who are there? Other folks that are here as well?
Yeah, there's the manufacturers of the Bitcoin mining machines are here. We have people who design and build custom Bitcoin mining containers. So basically kind of industry adjacent people are here. Mm-hmm. And it's really, this is the whole event. So there's a lot of people who wanted to come and we said no. And the reason why is because it's by miners for miners. Yeah. So if you're just here to see what's going on, that's not as important to us. We wanted more signal and less noise. Right, and so that comes from fewer people having meaningful conversations, and that's what this is really about.
So we're kind of at the end of the day. We've had so many amazing panels. Is there one or two insights or takeaways that has really stuck out for you?
Yeah, so first of all, I had a good time listening to Marshall and Philip talk. Yeah. So Philip is from Gridless.
Indeed.
And Marshall is from Texas. He does rhodium.
Yep.
But he's been mining since 2010.
Yep.
But they're talking about real-time demand response and the difference between Texas and Zambia.
Yep.
Right? And there's not many places you go that you have a conversation with what's similar and different about Texas and Zambia.
Yeah.
And so that was a kind of a fun one, just because you're comparing something that feels so different, but you realize that even in the scale difference between the two, there's a lot of similarities when it comes to Bitcoin mining on how you do your real-time demand response.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the benefits that we talk about when we talk about Bitcoin mining. We are allowing Bitcoin miners allow other companies to grab demand. So that is a good thing. So let's talk about the super brick. Now I know you. So you mentioned to us earlier that you were in the telecommunications business, right? The connectivities business.
Yeah.
And so apparently there's some technology that you brought in from your prior company that's been helpful for Gridless. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So one of the reasons it was kind of easy for us to get into Bitcoin mining was because we had already designed and engineered our own hardware, deployed it as infrastructure, both in rural and urban Africa. So we kind of understood that, like, those are the same places you mine, right? So understanding infrastructure in those types of places is important. So anyway, we had designed and built this. This is we call the super brick.
Very cool.
And the super brick was all designed and engineered here in Kenya. At Brick, what we had done is we were in the internet communication space, and we actually built our own hardware, from the circuit boards to the mechanical engineering of this case. And actually, the guy who designed our Bitcoin mining container also designed this case, right? So he's one of our guys from before, so we know how good he is, right? And but the reason we built this is because we needed something that really acted as a rugged edge compute server.
Got it.
Right? And that's what the super brick was. And when we started doing the Bitcoin mining, we were ordering these little small computers that you use to run the mine, right? That all the miners connect to. And then we realized that our old super brick was more robust.
Wow, and more reliable. Really?
And more reliable.
Wow.
And so we could do a couple things with it. We could bond a couple different communication services, because one of the problems you have when you're Bitcoin mining in Africa and remote locations is your internet connectivity. So how do you make sure you have good signal all the time? What happens is usually one of them will drop. Even the Starlink will drop.
So, and that's the part to me, like, I think when I heard Philip mention that Starlink wasn't reliable, like, that is pretty interesting. So this solution with the bonding of the package was more reliable than having Starlink.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll have LTE, we'll have Starlink, we'll have another service all tied into one, and then we do a bonding service, so the signal gets sent across all 2 or 3 communications lines at the same time. And if one of them gets cut off, it doesn't matter because it gets there another way, and then we can make sure we don't lose any shares in our Bitcoin mining. So that's one of the things this does. It also runs the mine, and it also takes in all that sensor connectivity from the forebay of the water levels or of the generator, the frequency level of the generator, so we know how much the community is using of power, and we can do real-time demand leveling based on that. So this becomes like the brains of the operation, if you will. So we built this 8 years ago. It's an 8-year-old technology to us, but it means that it's been really tested all across Africa, and we know how robust it is. So yeah, that's the super brick.
This is a great example of the innovation that's happening in Africa, right? This is a solution that was built or repurposed for Africa, and I think that one of the things that's coming up for me is like just this entire space is wrought with innovation, right? These are very unique and culturally specific problems. You can't use a Western solution to fix it. You really need to be in country, you need to understand the problem, and you need to kind of design a solution custom fit, kind of like your mining container that we saw outside a little while ago. Tell us about Kifaru, which means rhino, right?
Rhino, it's Swahili. So our 20-foot container is called Kifaru. We haven't made our 40-foot yet, but it's called Ndovu, which is elephant, right? So Kifaru is our 20-foot container, and we realized that if we were going to be buying containers from other countries and shipping them in, it was going to cost us $80,000 to $100,000 when you include shipping, VAT, duty, whatever other taxes they add on. And we were running the numbers, and we're like, no, we can't do that.
That's right.
So we have the capabilities here to build our own, so let's just do that. So Bare came back on board the team, and he helped us figure it out. And now we fabricate our own mining containers here in Nairobi, and we're up to our 4th one now.
That's amazing.
And we've shipped them all the way down to Zambia, and we just open sourced the whole design base for anybody in the world to use it. The reason we did that is because we think it's important that other miners have access to the same type of tools. We don't want to sell Bitcoin mining containers. That's not our business, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's somebody in Ethiopia or Nigeria or Zambia or South Africa that wants to build something, well, here is all the CAD design files, here's the standard operating procedures on how to actually fabricate it, put it in, step by step how to build it. Here's everything you need, right? And then you can have all the all of these sources locally provide those items for you instead of importing them in. Except for the PDU. The PDU, the power delivery unit, is the only thing that we actually, besides the miners, import the PDUs and the miners into the country. Everything else is fabricated locally.
I think that's really incredible because, again, I know you guys don't want to be in the container business, but you didn't have to share the plans, right? You didn't have to organize this wonderful event. You didn't have to do your part to build the ecosystem. And I just wanted to say, I think everyone here just thanks you for your leadership. This is vision. I think that Gridless and your team is committed to the building of an entire industry, not just the building of a company, and we appreciate that commitment.
Well, the mission of Gridless is to help decentralize the Bitcoin network. That means if we're the only guys doing Bitcoin mining in Africa, we're not really helping decentralize the network. We need more miners decentralizing across all these countries. And by the way, there's enough stranded energy across Africa that we can't do it all anyway.
Fair enough.
Number one, part of our mission is also to push electrification to the edges in Africa.
Indeed.
When you look across the world, the continent that has the least amount of people that have electricity is Africa.
Indeed.
Somewhere between 400 to 600 million people in Africa do not have power at all, right? And so we think it's important to use Bitcoin mining as a lever to push electrification further into the places that don't have it yet. And you'll see at this event is energy people. And from small mini grid builders to medium-sized 10 to 40 megawatt builders, as well as some large government ones who are using gigawatts of power, and each one of them has a stranded energy problem. Now, the important one that we care about the most is the mini grids.
Yes.
Because what's happened in Africa is the national grids have gone about as far as they'll go because that's where they can get their ROI. But there's a dispersed population group beyond the edges of that network, and that's where the mini grid guys come in. These small independent power producers that do a small hydro site that's 500 kilowatts. We'll see one tomorrow. And when they go out there and they sell it, they might have 3,000 households, like you'll see tomorrow, off of this one power site. But they're only at 30 or 40% usage. So what happens with the rest of the power? Nothing.
Wasted.
Yeah, it gets wasted.
Yeah.
And it doesn't transport well, it doesn't store well, you have to use it or lose it. So we come in there and all of a sudden they go to 100% usage with us, and it changes their financials. And when it changes their financials, guess what? They're a profitable company for the first time ever. They can get financing to do more of this, and it pushes the edges of electrification in Africa because now there's a model for profitable mini grids, which there has never been before.
And this is, and what I love about this use case is that this is a model that could be replicated all over Africa, assuming the conditions are the same. Like, I think this is probably the most compelling use case for Bitcoin mining. And this idea of energy poverty, again, some of you guys are Americans, this idea of energy poverty might be a little foreign to you, but it's basically not having the light you need to, the electricity you need to turn on your refrigerator, to study. Like your kids maybe need to study after hours, only 8 to 10 hours of working electricity. I think about the level of productivity loss that happens in every African country, and imagine everything that has been done, even with this energy restriction. Imagine what Africa could be like if we had it.
Everybody had it, right?
Exactly.
So when you go into these communities, you'll see when the sun goes down, it gets dark very quickly. When they have power, things change immediately. First of all, there's more security.
Sure.
Second, people can study at night. Third, healthcare gets better because people aren't breathing in fumes from paraffin lamps or charcoal. And fourth, they're able to now water their crops or water their livestock easier than they used to be before, so they're more productive. Right? There's all these benefits to electricity, and the truth is, even at the very beginning, they're not using very much. It's a small amount, but it has an outsized effect on their lives. Right? And you could say that electricity is like the base layer of human progress, right? And you have to have that. And once you have that layer, you can do so many other things. But without it, you're stuck in the Stone Age while everybody else is marching on into the 21st and then 22nd centuries.
I agree. So do you think Bitcoin mining companies eventually become energy companies? Because this is an energy and electricity play.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the path of the industry?
Yeah, so the way we see it is that in 10 years' time, I think the energy companies will be doing Bitcoin mining.
I see.
And standalone Bitcoin miners will be rare.
Interesting. So they would have been purchased by an energy company, or they would have
folded. Or they're doing like what we're trying to do, which is raise capital and use our own mining to get into the energy business too, so we can own some energy. And for us, we're not building 10 megawatts. We're out there saying, hey, let's take part in building another 1 megawatt site, a 2 megawatt site, and we'll own 50% of that with the energy guy. We'll do a joint venture, but we'll have an equity now in energy. And the interesting thing about this is that small energy is not very profitable, right? And it's largely because there's no industrial off-taker. So if you bring the industrial off-take to it, then it could be profitable from day one.
Yeah.
And so you can get your return on investment in 5 to 7 years instead of 30, which is what the industry is used to. Or never. Or never. And so it de-risks, actually. Bitcoin mining de-risks new energy production. Okay? And the good thing for us as Bitcoin miners is that by doing that energy and Bitcoin mining bundled, it actually de-risks us long term. So after that 5 to 7 years, we're de-risked because we're energy owners, and even if the Bitcoin mining value decreases, which I'm not saying it would, but if it does, we own energy.
There you go.
Right. So it's actually a really good system, and that nobody's really done before because, first of all, in the other parts of the world, they have really good interconnects and they have power going everywhere. Here we don't. And so, this model hasn't really been tried before.
Okay, so let's talk about the future. 5 years from now, what will the Africa Bitcoin Mining Summit look like?
This? Gosh, I have no
Who's
idea.
going to be here? How many people?
Oh, gosh.
What are we talking about?
Well, so here's what I know is happening. We have some of the bigger players from China and the U.S. who are coming into Africa, and they're going to be doing hundreds of megawatts.
Sure.
Right?
And they're
So
coming primarily because of the low price of electricity.
they're coming for the low price of electricity and the overabundance of it.
Got it.
Yeah, and it's largely renewable energy here, which means that the inputs are lower too. That's why it can be less expensive. So I think even by next year, we're going to start to see a lot more big players in the African Bitcoin Mining Summit. By year 5, it'll probably be, I don't think it should ever be too big. It needs to be a smaller group that's focused on Bitcoin mining and energy. That's really this combination of Bitcoin mining and energy is the sweet spot, right? And so I think just more people who are doing it in more countries and across a spectrum of very small to very large. I love the chicken coop miner as much as I love the big warehouse miner. Decentralization of Bitcoin mining is one of the most important parts of the security of the network, and we have to do our part to make it happen. Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you for being here today. Thank you for doing your part to build across the Bitcoin mining ecosystem in Africa. I think everyone here would join me in saying we are appreciative of you bringing this group together. I mean, there's not a more important time for us to be doing this work right now, and we just thank you for your leadership.
Well, I'm just glad we got you all the way out to Kenya. I mean, West Africa is cool, but I mean,
going back.
Kenya is not bad.
Nairobi's amazing. Thank you, Eric.
All right, thanks.
Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Fadirepo. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bitcoin in Africa show. Thank you so much for watching or listening. There are a number of ways you can stay connected to our show. First, check us out on YouTube at Bitcoin in Africa Show, or you can follow us on Twitter at Bitcoin Niger Show. Last but not least, sign up for our newsletter at bitcoininafricashow.com. Thanks so much. Take care.